Okay, so for years, the tech world has basically been holding its breath, waiting for Apple's big answer to generative AI. Well, it's finally here, and it's called Apple Intelligence. But this isn't just Apple playing catch up. Nope. This is a huge, calculated bet on one single idea that they think will define the entire future of AI. So let's dive in and break down what that is. For the last couple of years, the AI race has kind of forced this choice on us. Do you want the absolute most powerful AI? Because that usually means sending all your personal data up to some company's cloud servers. Or do you want to keep your data locked down and private, but maybe accept a less powerful experience? That's been the big dilemma. Well, Apple's answer to that dilemma is a hard no. They're saying you shouldn't have to choose. They're positioning Apple Intelligence as the solution that gives you all three things: an AI that's incredibly useful because it understands your personal context, powerful enough to actually compete, and, this is the big one, private by its very design. So, the big question is, how are they actually planning to deliver on this massive promise? Well, it all comes down to a fundamental blueprint, a new way of thinking about how your data gets handled right from the very start. It's really a two-part strategy. First, the default setting is always on device. Your iPhone's chip is actually powerful enough to handle most of what you'll ask, like summarizing an email or creating a custom emoji, without your data ever leaving your hand. But for the really heavy lifting, it turns to something brand new: private cloud compute. And this brings us to private cloud compute, or PCC. The easiest way to think about it is like a super secure extension of your phone, but in the cloud. When a request is just too big to run on your device, it goes to a server that's built with the exact same privacy rules as your iPhone. Your data is used for that one single request, and then, poof, it's gone. Let's dig into the layers of protection here, because it's pretty impressive. Stateless basically means the server has zero memory of you from one request to the next. No privileged access means what it says. Not even Apple's own engineers can peek at what you're asking. The entire system is verifiable. They're publishing the code for security experts to check, and your device's identity is hidden. It really is a digital fortress. And when you put this side by side with the standard AI approach, the difference is just night and day. The two huge points here are auditability and data use. Apple is literally inviting the world's security experts to come and inspect their system, and they're making a rock-solid promise that your personal data will never, ever be used to train its AI model. But here's the thing, building this incredible private fortress, well, that's only half the story. To make its AI truly powerful right out of the gate, Apple had to do something that honestly nobody saw coming. Look, the reality is creating a world-class large language model from scratch takes a ridiculous amount of time and data. And for the really advanced, multi-step reasoning that Apple wanted for the next generation of Siri, their own models just weren't quite there yet. So to bridge that gap and to make sure they didn't fall behind in this crazy AI race, they had to pick up the phone. And the company on the other end of the line was probably the last one you'd ever expect. That's right, Google. Apple is partnering with its biggest rival to stick the incredibly powerful Gemini model right inside Apple Intelligence. But, and this is the absolute killer twist, Google's AI is going to run inside Apple's private fortress. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds kind of crazy, right? Partnering with your biggest rival, but it's actually a brilliant, totally calculated business move. Let's get into why this partnership is the perfect strategic stopgap. The numbers really tell the whole story here. You can think of an AI model's parameters as being kind of like neurons in a brain. The more you have, the more powerful it can be. Well, Apple's own model is estimated to be around 100 billion parameters. As you can see, Google's Gemini has over 1 trillion. To close that massive power gap quickly, licensing Gemini was really the only move they had. If this whole move feels a little familiar, that's because it should. Apple has run this exact same playbook before, and, well, it worked out pretty darn well for them. Remember the original iPhone? It launched with Google Maps built right in. For years, Apple leaned on Google's mapping data, while behind the scenes, they were furiously building their own Apple Maps. This is the exact same strategy. Use your rival's amazing technology as a temporary bridge while you build your own permanent one. Okay, so how does that privacy promise hold up with Google in the mix? It's actually pretty simple. Every single request, even one that uses Gemini's brainpower, gets processed inside Apple's PCC fortress. This means Google never sees your data, and your questions are never used to train their models. Apple is basically paying a reported $1 billion a year just to rent Gemini's brain while keeping it locked inside their own secure room. So make no mistake, this partnership is not the end goal, not even close. It's just one phase in a much larger, multi-year plan for Apple to eventually own and control its entire AI stack, from the chip in your phone all the way to the models in the cloud. So here's what the roadmap looks like. In 2026, we get the new Siri, totally supercharged by Gemini. By 2027, we expect to see Apple Intelligence expand into totally new hardware, maybe something like AI smart glasses. And then shortly after that, Apple's own trillion-plus parameter model should be ready to go, letting them finally cut the cord and achieve full independence. And Apple's secret weapon to pull all of this off? It's the same ace they've had up their sleeve for years, their own custom silicon. The A-series and M-series chips, with their unique design, are just exceptionally good at running these massive AI models efficiently right on your device. This hardware advantage is the foundation for everything they're building. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, what's the big takeaway? This isn't just about Apple playing catch-up. The Google deal is a smart short-term move in a much, much longer game. Apple is making a massive bet that in a world drowning in AI, the platform that wins won't just be the smartest, it'll be the one you trust the most. And that leaves us with the billion-dollar question, doesn't it? Apple is betting its entire future on the idea that users will ultimately choose privacy over raw, unchecked power. Is that a bet that's going to win the AI race? I guess only time will tell.